Hello there. My name's Matt. I'm only 15, but I've already felt what it's like to be a prisoner. Well, they arrested me for something that I hadn't done at all. This story started unexpectedly, quite unexpectedly. One day, I left my math tutor and I went home. The weather was fine. It was Friday, so I could breathe out and relax before the weekend. I turned on my favorite music, put on headphones, and walked along enjoying life. After a couple minutes, I saw my bus already standing at the bus stop. I was about to start off running. I decided I could catch it still and ran. But just one moment turned everything upside down. Suddenly, 2 policemen came running over to me, grabbed my hands, and put me on the ground. I didn't even understand what had happened. Because of the music in the headphones, I didn't hear them approaching me, and all this stuff just made me totally stunned. The police twisted my hands tightly, ordered me to freeze, and then led me to the police car. I tried to say something, I even made some excuses, but no one listened to me. I was pushed into the police car and was taken away to the police station. For a while, I just sat and I couldn't say anything. What's going on? I thought. Then I tried to explain to the police there must have been some kind of mistake because I didn't do anything. But nobody was going to listen to me. Again, at the police station, I was sent to a cell. At first, I was still trying to explain something, saying that some kind of mistake might have happened, but then I simply got tired. The situation literally crushed me. Some suspicious people were already sitting over there. When I saw their scary looks, my heart sank down. I hid in the corner and started waiting. The whole time I tried to understand why they would arrest me. So what had I done? Did they put me in a jail for crossing the street through the red light? Well, I just did that a couple of times, really. Though, what nonsense. Or maybe it's all because of that fight behind the school building. But still, it was harmless, just a joke. I didn't even beat anyone for real. And why weren't the other guys arrested? Maybe I went over my head in all my actions over the past 6 months and couldn't understand what I did to be here. A little later, an old woman came. I saw her for the first time, but she waved her hands all the time, complained, and pointed her finger at me, saying something to the policeman. What? No, well, I certainly don't offend old ladies. I was sure. Well, I am sure. Maybe I didn't help her cross the road. Or, well, I don't know. I didn't leave a place on the bus for her. But when did that become a crime? Though I was ready to believe anything. It all looked so stupid. Soon, the police finally decided to talk to me. I was looking forward to them explaining everything to me now. But the only thing that they wanted was documents that I didn't have with me. And that only made the situation worse. Later, I was still interrogated. Well, I talked about the tutor, the headphones, and the bus at the stop, but all my words looked like sheer lies because I was nervous. As bad luck would have it, the police couldn't get in touch with my tutor to confirm my story. I remembered he told me about his trip to the mountains for the weekend, and he might already be in a place where there's no mobile connection. I tried to explain this, but my words only convinced the police I was lying. Mom was also out. She was on a business trip. A neighbor had to look after me while Mom would be away. And of course, I didn't know her phone number. I was sent back to the cell. I was shocked. After all, it never crossed my mind it could happen to me. Behind bars, I felt terribly scared. All these creepy people were sitting inside with me, looked at me with anger, talked about something, and laughed disgustingly. So the night passed. I almost didn't sleep. And all morning, I waited with hope that soon everything would clear up and they'd finally let me out. But nothing changed. The police walked by, not paying attention to me. From the conversations, I realized that at night, there was some serious crime. Someone was attacked with a knife or something like that, and now the whole situation was dealing with this. I sat all day trying to hold back my tears, and I already imagined how I'd be sent to jail for several years. And for what? Just because I didn't leave a seat on the bus or for a harmless fight after school? The next morning, my hope almost melted all away. Nobody could get in touch with my mom. There was still no one to bring documents either. Anyway, it was total crap. In the evening, that old woman came again. For the whole time, she pointed at me and complained about something. She explained something to the police for a long time. She cried and pointed at me again. I already decided that now everything would become even worse, and I even stopped listening. After all, what's the point? But then one of the policemen went to me, opened the door, and said I could be free. I didn't believe my ears. I freaked out. I went outside. The neighbors in my cell looked at me angrily. The policeman took me to an office. I crossed the threshold and was freaked out even more. There was a guy who looked like me. He had handcuffs. Of course, we were far from twins, but it wouldn't be easy for one with poor eyesight to distinguish us. The old woman complained all the time. She almost cried, apologizing to me. I looked at her, not understanding what the matter was. I was still shocked. They told me the story. On that ill-fated day, a thief broke into the house of this old woman. She returned home just when he was getting into her jewelry box and was about to escape. Of course, the woman shouted and started to call the police, but the thief pushed her in the doorway and ran out into the street. Already in the street, the police joined the woman, and all would have been fine, but it happened in the very street I was walking along after the class with my tutor. It seemed like something unreal. The old woman's eyesight was poor, and she could describe the thief only in some general details. As bad luck would have it, the thief looked like me. When the police and the woman ran out into the street, they saw me running. Of course, they decided I was the thief. And a couple of days later, the woman saw this guy pulling the things stolen out of the ditch. She rushed to him, the thief ran out into the street, but the passersby heard the old woman's cries, grabbed the robber, and dragged him to the police. They let me go home that evening. The woman was apologizing for a very long time. She even offered to give me some of the jewelry saved from the thief. I refused, and I didn't make any complaints to this woman. It was enough for me just to go home, but I will surely remember this story for the rest of my life. I hope nothing like this would ever happen to you. Like my story and subscribe to this channel if this story moved you. And tell me if any of you have ever come across any false accusations like this. Write in the comments what you did and what you would do in my shoes. See you.
Hi there, my name is Stella, and my younger brother is a cyborg. Yes, you heard right, and this is not some kind of fantastic story. This is for real. My brother's name is Arnold, but everyone calls him Arnie. Now he is 10 years old, which means that he is 4 years younger than me. I remember when he was born. I cried for the whole week. I wanted to be the only child in my family, so that all the attention and care of my parents were just for me. I couldn't stop dreaming of this screaming lump to disappear from our lives so that the things would go back to the way they were before. Once, I almost killed him. I am ashamed to talk about it now, but it's true. He was sleeping in his crib, and my mother asked me to swing it. I did not want to do that. I was angry with my mother for this request, so I swung it too hard. I was swinging the crib so hard that my brother flew out of it and fell to the floor. Fortunately, there was a thick carpet, which saved him from a bad bruise. Very little time passed, and Arnie had everyone's love wherever he was. Ever since childhood, he had been such a cute and funny kid that it was impossible for people in the street to pass by his stroller and remain indifferent. That really pissed me off, because I did not get so much attention from others. I always wanted to do something mean to make him cry. I took his toys away, ate different goodies in front of him without sharing, refused to play with him. My heart softened over time, and I realized that no matter how hard I tried to deny his existence, no matter what mean things I did to him, I simply adored him, my little brother Arnie. That was the end of our everlasting competition and the beginning of a strong friendship. By the way, Arnie always had tender feelings for me. He was ready to give me everything, to help me with everything, just to make me like him. When he was 6, he told everyone that he wanted us to get married when we grew up to protect me and not let anyone hurt me. It was so sweet, especially when he made a small ring from a piece of wire for me. When Arnie went to school, first he became the most popular boy in his class, and then in the whole batch. His natural social ability turned out to be unstoppable. He had so many friends that one couldn't even imagine. To tell you the truth, I was very proud of my little brother. But last summer, something terrible happened to our family that turned our lives upside down once and for all. Our family decided to have a picnic in the forest. On Saturday morning, we all got into the car, turned on some cheerful music, and tore off down the road towards the north. We laughed a lot and told each other funny stories all the way. Arnie was no slouch, as always. He has an awesome sense of humor. Suddenly, a huge deer came out of nowhere right in the middle of the road. Dad slammed on the brakes to avoid a collision, and the car rolled over into a ditch. When the car was rolling down, the whole world seemed to have stopped for a second. Everything was like in slow motion. At that moment, I felt nothing but fear. The only thought hammered inside my head, what's going on? I'm not going to give you the details of what happened after the accident because it was just awful. It's still hard for me to talk about it, even though it's been 2 years already. Every time I remember that day, I can't help but cry. Our beloved Arnie suffered the most in that accident. While we all had only bruises and scratches, he got his whole face smashed in. It seemed like there wasn't a clear spot to be seen on his face. The nurse at the hospital fainted when she saw my brother right after the accident. Basically, Arnie got the left part of his head paralyzed, including his eye. Besides, the muscles and the skin were severely damaged after the accident. It was incredibly painful to look at him. Having consulted, the doctors offered to make a special steel plate to cover the left side of Arnie's head. The aim was to protect the soft open areas of the skull. Of course, our parents gave their permission. I must say that despite that horrible situation, my brother held up very well. He kept making jokes just as before. But now he had noticeable speech disorders, most likely due to a paralyzed face. It made his jokes sound even funnier. I remember when he looked at himself in that steel mask in the mirror for the first time. We were so worried about his reaction, but he only cried, "Wow, cool! Now I will be a cyborg!" At that moment, my mom could not hold back her tears. She was deeply touched by the courage of Arnie, who reacted so positively to his new face. When Arnie returned to school, he became even more popular. Everyone called him a cyborg. Everyone wanted to take pictures with him and be his friends. The fame about him reached even high school. My classmates asked me to introduce them to my younger brother, Cyborg 2. There was nothing to worry about. Nobody bullied my brother because of the steel mask. Quite the opposite, in fact. It seemed that the worst was surely over. But the situation soon changed radically. Our dad was offered a job in another city and we had to move. Yeah, it was very stressful for the whole family. But first of all, for Arnie. He didn't get on well with his classmates from the very first day at the new school. And that's all because of Robin. Robin had been the unspoken leader of the class for many years. He realized immediately that he could lose his popularity because of this vibrant newcomer called the Cyborg. Since the best defense is a good offense, Robin started to offend my brother from the very first day. He constantly mocked him and played dirty tricks on him. At first, Arnie tried to make friends with him, but it was pointless. My whole family worried a lot about adapting our brother at school. I even went to his classroom several times and threatened his offenders, but all that did not help. Our cheerful, smiling Arnie, who had a few jokes for every occasion, gradually turned into a sad guy who almost never smiled. Once we were talking in his room, Arnie said that it was very hard for him to accept his new appearance after the accident. But our support and the support of his friends helped him overcome all his fears. Now it's very difficult for him, and he almost felt depressed. I wanted to help Arnie so much. I often thought about it at night when everyone was already asleep. And finally, I had an idea. Not telling anybody, I wrote a letter to the local news program and asked to make a story about Arnie, an unusual cyborg boy. There was no answer from them for about a week. I got restless. Their silence even seemed a refusal to me. Finally, I received an email saying that our cyborg was invited to the studio. I was so excited and immediately ran to tell Arnie the good news. But my brother didn't like this idea at all. He said that he did not want to take part in that TV show and did not even ask me to help him. He didn't like that I had decided everything for him. It took me a lot of time to persuade him to agree. The shooting went perfectly. Arnie was making jokes again, just like in the old days. He made the whole crew fall in love with his humor. When the story went on the air, we were literally jumping with happiness at home. Arnie was especially happy because he had made it. I was hoping that after that, my brother would be treated differently at school. But unfortunately, I was wrong. Robin and his team were still bullying Arnie, making his life unbearable. Suddenly, Arnie got a 1 in a million chance of a lifetime. He was invited to star in a science fiction movie in Hollywood. That was just unreal. I was speechless when I heard that. One of the producers saw the TV show about my brother and had decided to try the role of an unusual boy who is a cyborg without any masks and special effects. Arnie played one of the main roles, and people began to recognize him on the street as some famous actor. People even asked for his autograph. It turned out that acting was very hard. It took him many hours of daily work when he had to repeat the same lines over and over. However, my brother did well. One day, my mother and I went to the shooting location to support Arnie. I met one famous actor there and even asked for his autograph. That was so cool. Such a meeting was a huge event for me, and my brother saw him every day, and they drank tea during breaks many times. When the movie hit the theaters, everything changed. Now many school offenders are Arnie's fans and ask for his autograph. Imagine, there are even people who envy him because my brother is a true cyborg in real life without any masks or special effects. As for the main bully, Robin, he apologized and even wanted to become Arnie's friend. But my brother didn't buy any of that. Arnie's story has had a happy ending. But look around. There are so many people with disabilities who are bullied just because they are not like everyone else. This is terrible, because anyone may be in their shoes tomorrow. Would you like to become a cyborg and star in a Hollywood movie? Share your answers in the comments. If you liked my story, click on the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.